Hello everyone, welcome to Dose of Vermillion, a place where opinions are given and flaws are forgiven. Now today we're going to be talking about Dave Chappelle's 846 special on Netflix, YouTube, and just kind of the content of it and what it means for our current state of where we're at right now. Dave Chappelle's new special on Netflix, also free on YouTube if you want to go watch it. I will leave a link down below. It's called 846, which if you don't know is the amount of time that the police officer, Derek Chauvin, had his knee on George Floyd's neck in that horrendous video, if you haven't seen it, which I'm sure you have by now, where he is kneeling on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, which is an outstandingly long amount of time to have your knee on someone's neck in a situation where that was not even necessary. You could very clearly see that did not even happen. So you make of that video what you will, but it's a horrendous video and very nonsensical, if I could say so myself. But Dave Chappelle, surprisingly to most, came out with this video talking about the entire situation of what we have going on right now. It's a very up-to-date special. Everyone in the crowd, they'll show some scenes that they're wearing masks and everything just to show that it is happening now. Even though there aren't very many venues open right now for live performances, live concerts, live events, somehow he was able to get in there, get an audience in there, and give this special. It's not really comedy at all, though you could argue. It's actually not comedy at all. He seems to be a man who's just sharing a stream of consciousness to a group of his fans, his masked up fans, who would do what they had to do, just come see Dave Chappelle speak his mind, as many of us have and many of us would love to see, even in these uncertain times. But you can see clearly in the special that he is hurt by these protests, the events that happened with George Floyd, and honestly the current societal state of our country. The United States. We don't seem to be very united right now. And you could argue that the media could be a large part of that, just kind of driving these narratives down our throat and making it hard to determine what is or isn't the truth, and also usually prescribing motivations to actions that may or may not be genuine. So in this special, he's talking about how he cannot believe that these things have been happening, but he's also talking about the fact that he himself has been touching on these subjects for years now. And if you've watched his stand-up or the Chappelle show that used to be on Comedy Central, you know that's true. He's been talking about these things. He's been, even though it's in a comedic manner, there has been a lot of truth into what he's saying, and that's what makes Dave Chappelle so special, is that he is one of the funniest, one of the best comedians probably of all time, but he's also giving you the underlying, this is what's happening, and though I'm poking fun at it, it is true, and it's an unfortunate reality. But it seems with these protests that they're done with the way that things are, the way that things have been. Oh, that's just how it is. They're wanting to completely change that on many levels, which I do support on some levels not so much. But that's another topic for another video. But Dave Chappelle, nonetheless, has been talking about these issues for a long time now, and that's why it's easy for me just to listen to him and really take what he's saying seriously, because I know that he's been talking about these things for a long time, and it's reached a boiling point for him, reached a boiling point for the country, reached a boiling point for a lot of different areas right now. And amid the coronavirus pandemic, it's only adding fuel to the flame of discontent in the country, unfortunately. It's a little bit strange to see Dave in a more subdued fashion in this special, and with him talking about one subject the entire duration. It's not that's not a very run-of-the-mill thing for a stand-up comedians do is talk about a one subject for so long. But like I said earlier, it's not really as much a comedy special as it is just a stream of consciousness, it seems. I'm sure that he had some things that he wanted to make sure he talked about, but for the most part, it just seems like he's just speaking his mind, which Dave Chappelle is very good at. He just really had to get some things out. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy to just kind of do an impromptu comedy special, but I'm sure that these things were just really weighing on him, and he wanted to get it out there and get his opinion out there. Especially, there is one point where he talks about how news media people from CNN, Don Lemon, those of his ilk, have been talking about how celebrities need to make their voices known. They need to talk about these things. They need to talk about how they support them. And he's talking about how he doesn't need to go out there to support what they're saying. This is the streets talking right now. They're doing what they're doing. He doesn't need to be sticking his head in it when he's been talking about it for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And so you can see that just adds to his level of frustration with this whole situation, where people are really at the whim of the media, and they are kind of indicting anyone who doesn't speak out on it and saying that you don't care, or that you aren't doing enough just because you don't speak out on it. But I could argue, and many others could argue, that if you live your life in a certain way, then that would speak even more volumes than just posting a black square on your Instagram to show solidarity, which I'm not saying isn't important, but there are many more things that you can do. And just because you don't do that one thing that is now cool or it's now trendy and that you must do, that if you don't do that thing, then you must just not care. But I, like Dave Chappelle, live my life in a way to where I don't even think, I don't judge somebody based on the way that they look. I don't, and it isn't, that's not even an accomplishment. It shouldn't even be an outstanding feat to do that. It's just a normal thing. And I know that there are many people out there who aren't able to even look past how someone looks or look past their race. But if you are a normal person, if you are a level-headed individual, you should be able to do those things and stand with the people when you know that there's something going wrong. But that doesn't mean that inherently that you need to go and post these things because Instagram tells you to do it, because Facebook or because YouTube or Twitter tells you to go do it. Live your life in a way to where that way of living speaks more volumes than anything that you could post online. In this special, you can clearly see times that it's pulling at Dave's heartstrings. When he talks about the moments leading up to George Floyd's death, when he talks about the explosion, he says the wrath of God afterwards. You can really feel the emotion that he's sharing with this, or that he's feeling throughout all this. And for someone we normally look to for joy and laughter, like Dave Chappelle, he's delivering his content in such a somber and serious tone that it almost forces us to deal with the reality of where we are societally as a nation. And a lot of times people will look to comedy or entertainment to get away from whatever they're experiencing in their normal day-to-day lives. But Dave is showing that this will not go away for a long time until there is societal, maybe even systemic change to the way that we do things here. Wherever you stand on the issue, I think that we can all agree that we have some work to be done. And for me, I think it's possible, maybe even likely, that things will get worse before they get better. But they will certainly get better. Not immediately, but the way that we've been operating systemically, whether it be systemic racism, systemic law enforcement protocol, something will need to change before this all goes, I don't want to say back to normal, because it won't go back to normal, but back to a manageable state. Right now it's a little bit out of hand. I mean, it is more manageable now that they aren't rioting, they're just protesting. But the riots, that having to bring in the military is never a good thing, I don't think. If we keep heading down this road without making any changes, think it's quite possible that we're heading towards a civil war type of scenario, with left-leaning protesters occupying entire city blocks in places like Seattle, with Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or I think they might have changed it now to CHOP. It's not what they're doing now, but it's what happens when the kind of more leftist, social justice warrior type of citizen meets with the gun-toting, freedom-loving, red-blooded guy on the right. When those two clash, it's hard to say exactly what'll happen at that point. But I do think that the way things are going, that interaction, that meeting is almost inevitable, because the way that some people on the left are acting right now, they act a lot of times as if there's no way that there could ever be a repercussion for their actions. But there certainly is. For every action, there is an exact and opposite reaction. So we will see what happens there. But it's hard to say. But this 846 Dave Chappelle special just kind of shows where we're at right now. And like I said, I do think it's very possible to get worse before it gets better, but it will certainly get better. So keep your head high and just keep it moving. And that is your dose of Vermillion for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below and share it with a friend. And lastly, please subscribe for more. Until next time.